Today, I want to talk about a topic that comes up a lot that I hear people say typically after they get out of a relationship with a narcissist, a psychopath, a sociopath, a borderline. And what they say is that they go back out into the dating world and maybe they're online dating or maybe they're organically meeting people. But what people typically say is, I miss that other person. I miss that abusive, manipulative person because I go out with these new people and there just isn't like this excitement, this charge, this exhilaration that there was with, this other person from the past. And what I want to tell you is, okay, stop. Like, stop right there for a minute and let's really look at the situation. Okay, so what is it that you're looking for? And if it's sort of like this intensity and this exhilaration and all of this, you really need to take a look at that because exhilaration is not meant to be an endured state, a sustainable state over a long period of time. Exhilaration is a peak state. It's like, you have this excitement and it's like this rush of energy and this really, really exciting thing. Like, you just climbed a mountain and you reached the top, or something really amazing and exciting happened at work. You got this like new promotion, or you got published, or like some awesome opportunity came up, or like you had this like encounter with someone and they told you something and you had this revelation and you're in this like state of exhilaration, or like you've been working and working towards some goal that you finally reached and you feel like just amazing, full of energy. That's a peak state, right? It's short-lived and then things calm down again, right? And so exhilaration is not a state that's meant to be endured over a long period of time. And if you're looking for that exuberance and that exhilaration that you remember from the beginning stages during the idealization and the love bombing with the manipulative person, you're looking for something that's not real. Because if you look back to the beginning of that relationship, what you'll realize is that that person, the emotional manipulator, created what's called manufactured intensity. And that's a term that I got from the book Psychopath Free by Jackson Mackenzie. If you haven't read that, it's a must read. It's a sanity saver. And the manufactured intensity is when they are bombarding you, and they're bombarding you either with flattery or attention or approval or acceptance or sex or just sexual attention, or they have honed in on whatever it is that you most need, and that's where they're hitting you. Narcissists rely on this sense of exhilaration and exuberance and thrill. And that's because they have sort of like this existential ennui. I've seen it referred to. Ennui is a French word, Ennui, I think it's spelled, which is like boredom. But it's like a boredom that's like annoying. And the way that I've observed it is sort of like, it's almost like it gnaws at them, like this sense of like gnawing boredom. And if you meet someone who has this sense of gnawing boredom, you definitely want to pay attention to that and notice. And if that person is always seeking out thrills and exhilaration and experiences which cause that, you might be dealing with a narcissistic person. And I'm not saying everybody who seeks thrills. This is a person who lives by that. Like, they can't survive without constant thrills in their life, and they're probably telling you that, at some point, that you're not good enough, you're not exciting enough for them, you're not sexually riveting enough, or you're not sexually wild enough, or you don't want to go jump out of airplanes so you're boring, or like you don't want to go like drive recklessly around and you're just boring and uptight, and like, they'll have these sorts of put downs for you as they're trying to groom you to see, how much you'll go along with. And they're always seeking that. And that's why they're always going to be seeking new sources of supply, because they get bored of you. They get tired of you. They get tired of the same situation. They constantly have to be seeking novelty, thrill, excitement, exhilaration, and you're just a source of that to them. And that's why, like, they love fighting with you too. Like, they don't care if it's negative energy. They're getting off on that because it's like excitement and like all this energy, and like they're not bored anymore because now they got you all upset, and now you're like giving them all this energy and attention. And if you're giving them all this energy and attention, then they think they must matter. when really you're just like angry and upset about whatever they're saying, doing, accusing you of, and gaslighting you about, whatever is going on. So keep that in mind. Watch out for that kind of thrill seeker, the person who always has to have thrills, and that's the intensity you're going to notice at the beginning of the relationship, whether it comes through the constant contact and the intensity of the contact, or whether they're just working you up to get you in person, to get you in bed, and then to hit this sexually, like to cause this kind of like sexual attention, sexual excitement, sexual exhilaration, and that could be through BDSM, or it could not be. It could just be through some kind of like amazing sex. And that's what a lot of people say. Like, some narcissists will use withholding sex as a form of control. Other narcissistic people will dish out this really amazing kind of sex where you just get hooked, like you get chemically hooked to that, and then like you are literally in withdrawal and dying to have that experience again because you got hooked in that. But it was actually a very toxic form of sexuality, and that kind of connection was not at all helpful. It was actually quite devastating, and you just didn't realize that it was a power and control game. And so you've then like sexualized the power control issue in your life, and that's really what they're doing. And if you got hooked into that, then you want to look at that power and control issue. And if you got hooked into someone based on sex, and that's the part that you're just like really, really craving right now, then you definitely need to take a good long period of celibate time to yourself to work that out without getting involved sexually with someone else, without getting confused, without creating those filaments of energetic connection to that person, which, by the way, last forever until you break those, until you cut those cords. Every person that you sleep with, you are connected to with these invisible energetic filaments of light. And information is constantly being passed back and forth. Energy is being passed back and forth. So you really want to be careful who you're sleeping with, number one. And number two, you really want to take this time to yourself to work these issues out before jumping into bed with someone else and getting more confused and getting more manipulated and getting more devastated. You think that that's like a normal thing because you got used to it, and like at first that intensity was really amazing. Why was that amazing? Was your life that boring? No, probably not. It's probably more that, inside you have this very deep, devastating sense of loneliness from some experience in your past, either from some kind of loss that you endured, like someone that was very close to you that you lost, or a divorce, or a job loss and devastation, or a natural disaster loss kind of situation. Or maybe it was that, during childhood you were raised in an abusive situation where you had a narcissistic parent and this person was emotionally manipulating you, and you got used to these peak states. And so from your childhood experiences, you have this deep sense of loneliness, like you didn't receive the kind of love that you should have received as a child. You were either abandoned in a way and neglected, or you were abused and criticized and taught that you had to put all of yourself aside. Your thoughts, feelings, emotions, needs, perceptions of reality had to get put aside in order to meet the, extraordinary expectations and, drastic whims of the narcissistic parent. Their love was conditional. You only received their love if you pleased them, if you behaved in certain ways that made them happy, then you were, able to receive their love. And so as an adult, you may find yourself a people pleaser, where you want to please everybody, you want everybody to like you, you want to make sure that you're not hurting anyone and that everybody's got their needs met, and you can help people fix things, and you become the caretaker. But you need to take a step back at that and realize that's also not healthy. That sense of loneliness, you got to take care of that from the inside instead of trying to fix other people and please other people and get that sense of acceptance and approval from other people that you never had from the past. You got to go deal with the early stuff. But if we come back to the present, and this sort of like this desire to feel like that exuberance and that exhilaration, and it's not there, and you feel like, oh, nothing's ever going to be the same, and then maybe you even like miss the abusive person more because of that. So my recommendation, and you may not like this, okay, but I'm sorry, this is like 100% honesty right here. You need to take at least 6 months of no dating, no sexing, no like heavy flirting, like definitely get yourself off the online dating sites. You're setting yourself up to be a target right there. You need to take time and space to go heal yourself. And hey, if you should meet someone that seems like a really amazing person, start a friendship. Start a new friendship, and you don't have to tell them everything at the beginning. You can just tell them that, you've been through some major transitions in your life recently and you're taking things really slow. And, if they're pushing and pushing, you can just make it very clear that you're taking things slow. You're not trying to rush into anything now. You'd like to get to know people and get to know yourself and heal yourself. And you're interested in cultivating a friendship, and if that person is respectful and that person genuinely values you for you and not you for your sex or you for whatever other thing that they want you for, then they're going to hang around, and they're going to continue to hang around you, and they're going to continue to talk to you about things and show interest in you as a person, and genuinely show up for you, want to spend time with you without getting whatever, they don't have like an ulterior motive. They're not trying to get something back from you. They genuinely want to spend time with you and share in a dialogue and a connection and whatnot. And the thing is that, during that first 6 months, you are incredibly vulnerable and fragile. After you've just gotten out of an abusive relationship, you really need to focus on the inside and take care of you and heal yourself and self-nurture and focus on redirecting your thoughts, because like your thoughts and your feelings and your emotions are still going to be getting pulled back to that abusive situation. You've been traumatized. You have a lot of stuff to work out. You've got a lot of heavy emotions, like definitely probably some regrets, like when you really realize like your part in that and how you let it go on. Not that you were responsible for the abuse and not that that was your fault, but that you chose to stay. You chose to stay through this treatment, and you chose to make excuses for this person, and you chose to not protect yourself and instead to please this person so you could try to get that sense of acceptance and approval. And you chose to stay in this like roller coaster of a ride because all of that was a distraction from taking care of the deeper loneliness that you have inside. And then what happens is, like, as people keep going back for more of that abuse, that sense of shame, like there's first of all, there's a layer of shame around that sense of loneliness, because if you were a child and you believed you weren't worthy of the love of your parent or your caretaker or someone really close to you, then you have a deep sense of shame. Right? And then you add on top of that another layer of shame of the regret of knowing that you went back to that person, or you got pulled back into it, or you stayed for so long even though they were treating you like that. And so you feel like an extra layer of shame on top of that. And so, this exciting, exhilarating experience is kind of like a distraction from that loneliness. And what happens is, like, during a traumatic relationship, when the Stockholm syndrome happens, when the trauma bond is created, the manufactured intensity that happens, it's like brain drugs, right? It's like dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, whatever is going on in there in your particular brain, all of that has been stimulated. And you got used to that. And so when you get used to like this constant stimulation, this constant like brain high, right? That starts to feel normal. Your nervous system starts to get used to this. And so afterwards you go through a withdrawal, and you feel like empty and lonely and numb, and this like intense obsession and drawing back to that person and that experience, even though consciously that wasn't healthy, like it was abusive, you don't want to go back, but can't help yourself. Like, you just, like, your whole nervous system just wants to go back to that. And that's why you need to stop and take time for you. You need at least 6 months. If you were in a long relationship, like longer than a year or two, you're going to need more than 6 months. You might need a year, and it's entirely unique based on each unique individual, the intensity, the ongoing nature of that relationship, what you came into that relationship with. Was that like the third, fourth, fifth, sixth time you got into that kind of trauma bond, then it's like almost like an exponential sort of recovery that you have, after all of that abuse and the re-traumatization. You really need to take time out to let all that come back to baseline, back to normal, because your brain and those chemicals and everything is all disturbed. So you take some time by yourself, you start doing some healthy things to take care of yourself, you start meditating, you change your diet, you get onto like really healthy nutrition, you're hydrating, you're drinking water, you're moving and exercising, you're getting out and having a bit of a social life with healthy people, you're finding some new activities to do, things you always wanted to learn, or fun activities, things that you never did and you always wanted to do, and you start to fill your time with these new patterns and these new healthy things that you're doing to take care of you. That way you don't feel so much of a temptation to want to go back, and there isn't like this gaping hole in your life that you're trying to fill. You've filled it with healthier things. And if you immediately get back into the dating world, chances are you're going to meet someone just like that person. And chances are at the beginning you're not going to see it again, or maybe you're going to see a few red flags, and you're going to be like, well, I'll just go ahead and give them the benefit of the doubt. I'll go ahead and second guess myself, and I'll go ahead and defend myself or prove myself to this person because I just so desperately want some affection. And you don't want to be in that situation. You need to take a time out, a step back. You need to go take care of you. And during this time, you also want to hang out with platonic friendships. Now, these are true friends, because keep in mind, if you've been in a narcissistically abusive relationship, chances are you're also surrounded by at least one, if not more, narcissistic friends in your life. And you don't really realize that until you really start to see the big picture of all these dynamics and patterns. And so what I'm talking about here are real, true friends, healthy people who respect your boundaries, people who have healthy boundaries themselves, people who are respectful and loving and caring, and they're genuinely interested in you, and there's like this mutual give and take, and you're there for each other, and it always feels uplifting and positive, and you don't feel drained and exhausted, or like you're second guessing yourself, or like you're feeling down on yourself or something, because this person is not there making fun of you or putting you down. They're celebrating life with you, and they're grateful for your presence in their life, and they let you know that. When you hang around healthy people, and maybe like, you're cooking dinner together, or you invite this person over to dinner, or maybe you don't like to cook, so you go out and you have some food outdoors, or like you go to have a drink together, or you go to have coffee, or you go to hike in the park together, and you start spending time with healthy people. Suddenly, it's like you see this stark contrast. You see this contrast between what healthy looks and feels and sounds like, and what unhealthy looks and feels and sounds like. And suddenly you look back at the past, at that relationship, and you're like, wow, that wasn't healthy at all. Like, there was nothing healthy about that. And you see how, like, in the beginning stages, maybe this is a new person that you met in your life, right? And because you're not getting immediately sexually and romantically involved, you really have a chance to get to know this person. And over time, this person really proves themselves to you. And you see, like, you're getting to know each other, right? So the person doesn't automatically know your boundaries. Don't assume everybody has the same boundaries as you, right? So you set your reasonable boundary, and you're like, I can't hang out right now. I really need to do this work, or I really need to do this thing. And the person's like, okay, no big deal. Let's talk later. And that's it. And then you hear from them like maybe hours later, or later in the night, or the next day, or whatever. And like, hey, how did that thing go that you were doing? Oh, it was awesome, whatever. An unhealthy person is like, you tell them, hey, I got to do this thing, can't hang out right now. And then they just keep texting you. And they keep texting you. Or maybe they even call, or maybe they're like, hey, you want to hang out again? Let's go hang out, right? Because they're not listening to your boundaries, whereas the healthy person does. And the thing is, when you meet this healthy person at the beginning of the relationship, no, it's not this like dramatic, exhilarating, intense kind of thing, no, it's more of like it's not distracting, like it's exciting and it's happy. And when you think about that person, you feel great, and you think of the memories, last night when you're hanging out and having dinner or whatever, last week when you guys did that, and that felt like a really great experience, but you're not obsessing about it. You're not like all of your thoughts and your feelings and your attention, everything isn't going there. Like you can totally focus on work. You can totally focus on other things in your life and other people in your life. You're not dropping everything for this person. You're not totally distracted from everything else you need to do because all you can think about is that person. That person is not all consuming in your life. And that's the difference between like the healthy start and the unhealthy start. That intensity, that exhilaration, there is some excitement. It's not to the degree that it is with an emotionally abusive person, because that person is manufacturing that intensity. They're tricking you into think that this feels amazing, right? And if you have that core loneliness that you haven't dealt with, you might be a perfect target, because you might be like, okay, that feels a lot better than the loneliness. So instead of working on the loneliness, I'd rather just feel that, and you get to that point when you're with healthy people that you see that contrast. You see how in the past you got drawn into that, and you got drawn into the obsession and the distraction and the all-consuming exhilaration. And then you see how different it is now, and how like this connection is really positive. And like you think about that for a little bit, and then you go to do your work, and like your work is just flowing, like it's coming together, and your creative processes are working, and your problem solving abilities are working, and you're totally on and focused. You're not thinking about that person, you're focused on your work, but because of the positive energy of that, it's like positive energy everywhere, and it's not doubtful energy. Because when you're at the beginning of that exhilarating, emotionally manipulating, manufactured intensity kind of situation, you're confused in other areas of your life. You're not totally focused on work, and you're self-doubting yourself. You're self-doubting everything that you're doing in work. You're self-doubting the decisions you make at the supermarket, where you're going to have for dinner, because of that relationship and the intensity and the self-doubts and all of that. That's all the red flags that are screaming from your intuition. So that's the difference that you'll start to notice when you hang out with a healthy person and when you're not. And that 6 months period of time minimum, because again, if you have been in a relationship for a really long time, you're going to need some time to you. Like it could be like a year that you're going to want to you, and just allow the brain chemicals to come back to baseline, allow your heart to come back to baseline, allow your mind to come back to center and baseline, allow yourself some time for healing, some time for self-nurturing, and really getting to know you and working through your issues and the things that were initially drawing you into that unhealthy situation. And then what'll happen is like, what you'll find is like, if you've been around people like these narcissists all your life, they're always going to be around you to some degree. And it's going to be a constant test from the universe. Like, so what do you think? Are you interested? Do you want to come back to these old patterns? What do you think? And it's up to you to say no, thank you. And it's up to you to say no thank you when people from the past try to get back into your life and try to hook you again with, I miss you, you're so amazing, I really miss your presence in my life. No, don't fall for that. It's up to you to stand strong. And the more healthy you get, the more easily you're going to recognize that. The quicker you're going to recognize that, the quicker it's just like, just doesn't sit right. It doesn't smell right. It doesn't feel right. It's just, something's not right with that. You got this like tingly thing in your gut that's just telling you something ain't right, because it's not. So that's something I wanted to put out there, because I hear people asking this all the time. Don't get caught in the whole woe is me thing. I see this sometimes online in forums and support groups where people are like, everybody's just like this. It's always going to be like that. And it's either going to be, this amazing exhilaration and then turns into abuse, or it's just totally uninteresting. And it's like, get out of that. Snap out of that. There are 7 billion people in the world, right? Why would you want to accept that? And what you need to understand is that if you've been surrounded by narcissists all your life, to a certain degree, they're always going to be in your life. It doesn't mean that you can't find somebody different, because there are plenty of people out there who aren't like that. And it's just that you've always had these people around you. And the more you heal yourself, the more you clean up those vibrations, the more you will start to draw into yourself these healthier relationships. And the more of those healthy relationships that you have in your life, the more you're going to recognize the unhealthy ones when they show up again and present themselves and offer an invitation for self-sabotage. You'll be like, thanks, but no thanks. See ya. Already got that lesson. not interested, and you'll walk away, and you won't second guess, and you won't doubt yourself, and you won't feel like you have to prove yourself to that person and prove how amazing you are. No, you just have to know that. You need to prove that to yourself. You got to believe in yourself and have faith in yourself, and be able to walk away without that validation from the other person, and with that person maybe even telling you that you're not good enough, or there's something wrong with you for not wanting to go hang out with them, or for not wanting to accept the way they're treating you. Don't buy that. So what you can do, what's helpful to you during this time that you're going to take to focus on you, and even if you made the mistake and you got out there and you started dating some people and you started having similar situations and you were like, whoa, it's okay, don't beat yourself up. Now's when you want to start, right? Start your 6 months now, minimum 6 months, dedicated to you, and start asking yourself some empowering questions, right? Empowering questions are like, what can I do right now to start accepting myself more? What can I do right now to start loving myself more? What can I do right now to start healing that sense of loneliness I have inside? What move can I make right now to feel more centered and balanced within myself? What new activity can I add in my life to fill this hole from all this time and energy that I spent in an unhealthy relationship, or ruminating and thinking about and obsessing about that unhealthy relationship afterward? What move can I take now? What can I do now? What can I do starting today? Right? These are empowering questions. And when you start to ask these questions, your subconscious starts to look for reasons, right? Versus being like, well, I need to heal that, or I need to do that, or this is wrong with me and that's wrong with me. You want to shift out of that and redirect your mind to ask these empowering questions, because then your subconscious is going to be looking for answers to those questions. It's going to magnetize to you ideas, things, people, situations that are going to help you do that. Ask yourself empowering questions. Take some time on your own. I know it's like in society we get to this point where we think like 6 months, like a year, no dating. What? I know. But trust me, if you take this advice to heart and you put this to practice, you're going to see you're actually going to be a lot less lonely being by yourself than if you are dating and getting involved in relationships with emotional manipulators. You're going to realize you're a lot less lonely, and you're going to realize you can be there for yourself, and you're going to come up with new activities that you can do in your life, and new hobbies and new things to learn, and new awesome people to hang out with, because you're going to have so much more time and energy on your hands to focus on you, to focus on self-nurturing, to focus on balancing, coming back to center, and being you. So I hope that was helpful. If you like this video, hit like. If you know somebody who could benefit from this, please be sure to share it with them. If you have any experience taking one of these breaks after you get out of a relationship and you got some clarity and some new perspective on that, share it below. It might be really encouraging for other people. Thanks for tuning in. See you soon.